Hi guys, thanks for watching. So here we are going to go over how to use tipless piping bags. These are a brand that I offer on my website, borderlandsbakery.com. First thing you're going to do is fill the bag. One of the things that I love doing is having the bag placed kind of around the cup. I'm putting my hand through the middle so that it opens up the entire bag so you can put as much icing in there as possible. Adjust the flaps so they're not in the way. And then you take your icing and you can either put it on your spatula or just kind of pour it in using your rubber spatula. And what I'm going to do is I'm putting my hand over the spatula so I can get as much of the product off as possible. And that's that. That's how you fill your bag. If you want to get all the icing towards the end of your bag for a cleaner bag and easier piping, use a pastry scraper to move that down, or you can also kind of use your hands and squeeze down the bag. So now I'm going to move on and show you ways to secure tipless piping bags. So one of the things that you can do is use a rubber band, kind of twist the top, and then put that pastry tie or rubber band right over it. And you could do it a couple of times. So I kind of do it once over, twice over, and then tuck it in. And that's how I pipe. Another way of securing your tipless piping bags is to simply tie a knot at the end of the bag. For these bags, these are actually a little bit thicker than some of the pastry bags on the market right now, so they're a little bit harder and more stiff to manipulate. It's still possible to tie it in a knot, but again, the material is more stiff and a little thicker, so it's harder. But all you do is simply pull it tight. You can kind of use your teeth and grab the end of it to pull it really, really tight if you want. And there is yet more ways to secure your piping bag if you want. I'm going to show you how you can use a very small bag clip. You can get these IKEA, you can get them from my friends. There's a whole list of people who sell them in my resources blog post, which I will link below. And all you do is open it up, press it close, it will clip and secure itself closed. Now, if you want to adjust it as you pipe, all you do is undo the clip, adjust where your icing is, squeeze it back down, re-clip. It's very simple to use, and it's very secure as well as you're piping it. So I'm giving it a good squeeze here just to show you how much pressure it can withstand, and it's quite a bit. Alright, so moving on to how to cut these tipless piping bags for some basic piping and flooding. You'll notice that all bags have one seam, and the first thing you're going to do is orient that seam right in the middle and really pinch it at the tip with the icing in there and the bag already filled, so that the icing fills the tip of your bag. Make sure that seam again is lined up with the very middle of your bag. Alright, so that's a side view of what that looks like with the seam lined up right in the middle, smashed totally flat, so that the seam is completely pressed flush against the rest of the bag. This is super important. The next thing you're going to do is make a small cut straight across. And the size of your hole is going to differ a little here, and that depends on your consistency and your preference. I highly recommend playing with it because as you apply more pressure, less pressure, all that is going to change. What I've done is I've just kind of opened up the tip slightly so that it's more rounded instead of smashed flat. Alright, so that is what that tip looks like as you've cut straight across it. Again, seam in the middle, cutting straight across with very sharp scissors. Here I've done the same thing on a green bag. I've actually already cut it straight across to just kind of show you what that looks like. When you clean off the bags, you want to pinch it exactly the way I'm showing you now, again with the seam oriented in the middle. That will clean off the tip of your bag and remove any clogs that might have, gotten there from the icing drying or whatnot. And you pipe using a tipless piping bag just as you would using a regular piping bag. For me, I like to outline and flood with a single consistency. This usually means it's about a 20 to 25 second icing. So icing where if I piped it, it'll settle back on itself between 20 and 25 seconds. However, a disclaimer here, sometimes I like to use icing that's even a little bit thicker and it won't settle on its own. So sometimes the icing requires the use of a scribe to help fully settle smoothly. And that's totally okay. Consistency is something that's super personal. You really have to play with it. Everyone's preferences are different. So for this cactus right here, I flooded it with about a 25-second icing. And I'm using my scribe tool to go in, fill in any gaps, but also to smooth out the surface of the icing as needed to make sure that there are no peaks as it dries and settles. And here what I'm doing is just cleaning off the tip of the scribe in the same pinching motion that I used to clean off the tip of a piping bag. The next thing I'm going to show you how to do is how to cut a leaf tip on your tipless piping bag. So these are set up in the same way with the seam facing the middle of the bag, and you really want to pinch the tip so that it's oriented in the middle and you get that seam flat. I'm using super stiff, even more stiff than toothpaste consistency royal icing here, and I've cut the tip into a point with that seam right in the middle. So with the seam oriented up, that's going to act like your metal piping tip, but you don't need one. So this is how you would pipe leaves. And because my icing is crazy thick here, it's not pulling off into a point as nicely as I like it. You can play with the size of the opening and really adjust the way that the leaf looks. So definitely experiment. Now, one other thing you can do is to make ruffles or pipe some kind of flowers with your icing bag. And what I've done here is this is a toothpaste consistency icing with the seam oriented in the middle, and all I did was make kind of like a diagonal cut so that it comes out at a point. And in this view, the seam is at the top. What we're going to do is we're going to point that pointy portion of the tip towards the bottom. You see the seam is facing us right now, and your toothpaste consistency icing will come out in a nice ruffle. And what I'm going to do here now is I'm going to do it again, but with a fuchsia icing. I've pre-cut that tip to work on something else, but now I'm going to open it up a little bit more. All right, so the seam is on the right side of that towards the back of the tip. Now you can see the seam is in the middle facing up. And all you do is apply pressure to get those nice ruffles. Okay, and just in case you want to see it again, here it is one more time. Seam, pinch it so that the seam is at one side. In this case, it's the right side of the screen or of the bag, so you can't see the seam. Cut it. All right, I just had to cut it a little bit bigger there. And with the seam pointed up, we're going to go ahead and make those ruffles. These bags are actually thick enough that you can also use it with a coupler and a piping tip. What I've done here is I made a bullet out of saran wrap and icing in it. It has swirls of various colors of icing. I put the coupler in, I'm putting the saran wrap bullet in, and this is toothpaste consistency icing because I want all the icing to keep its shape. And I'm putting the tip and the coupler on it. Right now I'm just trying to grab the end of that saran wrap so the icing will come out correctly. Putting the tip on, putting the coupler screw on. And then you'll kind of see here how it comes out, how the bag is really quite robust. And then I'm going to show you how to pipe a little tail on this piñata. This is very thick icing here. Bag works great for that. And here's another close-up of that same type of work using very stiff icing and a tip and a coupler.